is the Vintage RPG Podcast, your source for the best in classic and contemporary RPGs. With your hosts, Hambone and Stu.
Welcome to Vintage RPG Podcast, coming at you again from the clubhouse in somewhere in the swamps of New Jersey. I'm John Hambone McGuire. With me, as always, is the founder and publisher of Unwinnable. He once said that Grimrock Pile is what he used to refer to as the flagstones he used to pave out his backyard. Stu Horvath.
It's a very evil patio back there.
Listen, I remember when you were working on it and like suddenly like I can't get in touch with you and I see you and you're coming out of the backyard. You are complete. I mean, it's obviously middle of the summer, but you were wearing jeans regardless because you stay true and you're just sweating and you dug up the entire backyard. For you who don't know, dear listener, outside the clubhouse is an awesome little garden patio area with a fire pit that is like superb to sit out at if the temperature is right. And Stu dug it up. Stu dug it up himself.
It's the Tom Petty Memorial Patio because he died like a couple days before I finished it. It was very sad.
Yeah, and then we listened to nothing but Tom Petty for about a solid week straight.
Yeah,
while sipping beverages outside by that fire pit.
My biceps were also so big that like if I was like leaning on a bar, like my sleeves would like be uncomfortably tight.
Yeah. Oh, I remember that. I'd be like, easy there, Danzig. Put the guns away. They're in public.
So, like I just didn't think that would happen, lifting bricks for a summer. But hey, I guess that's literally Danzig, with the bricks. I see.
It's right there. So Grimrock Pile is actually what we are talking about today. But what is it, Stu?
So it is it's Grimrock Isle. I didn't want to correct you because the joke is so good, but it's an isle.
Isle? Oh, dude, I am really deaf.
Yeah, no, it's all right. Grimrock Isle is from Triad Entertainments. Triad was, and might still be, Scott Anielowski is like the guy I associate. I'm not sure who really ran it or owned it, but he has a lot of credits on it. He also has a lot of first-party Call of Cthulhu credits through Chaosium, but Triad basically made third-party Call of Cthulhu scenario books. I got one way back when it was new at Necronomicon in Providence. The second one, I think that was 92 or 93. I got it. I got the first one, which is Lurking Fears. And I always kind of loved it and was just sort of like confused by it because there's something missing from it. Like that, I was always able to like read and enjoy Call of Cthulhu, Chaosium Call of Cthulhu scenarios and just enjoy them for their own sake. And I have a little bit of trouble with the Lurking Fear ones. I think because they're sort of trapped between like wanting to be mainline Call of Cthulhu and wanting to kind of embrace like some of the edgier qualities that like a pagan publishing did with Unspeakable Oath and stuff. And I think that they wind up just being a little bit more gross than I'm looking for. And they also scale to a little bit of improbability. I think that both Call of Cthulhu and Pagan keep things sort of, I don't want to say realistic when we're dealing with like outer gods, but like plausible. Whereas I feel like the Lurking Fears, the Triad stuff sort of tends to throw in everything in the kitchen sink. But we've actually talked about one of the Triad scenarios in the past. They did the Dare. Originally appeared in one of the Triad books, Dwellers in Shadow. We covered that last year about the kids going to the witch-haunted house.
So exciting.
But Grimrock Isle, man. So Dweller in Shadows, Lurking Fears, End of the World, all books. There's another one, Whispers in the Dark, too. I don't have that one, but they're all books. They're all square-bound books that look very much like Call of Cthulhu books. Grimrock Isle is a folder. And I was a little surprised when I saw this. And I'm always just like a sucker for unusual print configurations for role-playing games. One of the things that I think is great about the Harn products is the fact that like the main Harn index has like been produced in like a whole bunch of really weird, one of which is a folder, one's a box set, one's a binder. Like they keep like putting it in different configurations. And I just, there's something about that I really love. part of why I like OSE is the fact that you could buy it as, collected books, or you could buy it as like each thing, the set of 5 books in a box set. Like that difference in format, I find it intriguing when I encounter it. And this one in particular was extremely enticing. So it comes in this folder. It's largely purple. The cover shows an island in the distance, theoretically the titular Grimrock Isle. And then there's a tentacle coming out of the water, and a dinghy that's going to be capsized with a very terrified fellow in a fedora. Subtitled "A Chilling Solo Adventure and Campaign Book in One." So not only is it an unusual format, but it also combines solo play and group play. This is super exciting to me. So you open the thing up, and there's a sheet that says "Alone and in Danger Again," and it basically says, "Here's all the little booklets that are inside, and you should only look at the Dove's Bay solo first, which is the first book." And then there's a bunch of supplemental location-based books: Palmer's Orchard, Bleakmore Cemetery, McKiernan's Lighthouse, Thompson's Bridge, and Hutchins Cave. And I feel like I skipped one, but that's okay. And then Dove's Bay is the main town, and the others are sort of regions that are nearby. And then there's the Book of Terrible Knowledge that has the group play version of the solo, plus 3 more scenarios within. This is just like, oh my God, it's so interesting and cool. I love it's just such an elaborate solo. I don't think I've ever encountered a solo that's quite so many parts. And I love the idea of having like a central hub, which is the village in Maine or wherever, and then it connecting to these really specific events that happen on the outskirts. Is it successful? I think the central mystery is pretty interesting. It involves the isle is sort of in the bay that the town surrounds, and there's a big mansion on it. The mansion, of course, has a dark secret. It isn't quite what you think, and I think that the twists and turns of that are interesting. But there's only so much that they could do in the solo that kind of supports that. It is fun exploring the town, but it becomes pretty apparent pretty fast that this is sort of like what's the town that Sutter Kane lives in Mouth of Madness?
Oh, yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Where every place, or like Castle Rock,
Yep.
everybody's got a dark secret. There's like monsters everywhere.
Listen, man, you know what they say? A mansion without a dark secret is like a day without sunshine.
Right. And the serious like A24 horror fanatic in me is just like, oh man, it's such a drag. But at the same time, like the camp value is pretty good and pretty high here. And it's sort of refreshing that like each of the locations, like Hutchins Cave, right? It's a sea cave. So it gives you exactly what you want. There's deep ones there. They rehashed like the Innsmouth thing, and like that's there, but there's also bootleggers and there's some other stuff that happens. Thompson's Bridge is a place where you meet a possible ally, a ghost, and if you're unlucky, you could run into like this crazy cultist who thinks that the main bad guys aren't doing a good enough job. It's just like, what?
Yeah. That's always something.
Yeah, and then Bleakmore Cemetery. Oh wow, there's ghouls there. Did you expect that? And Palmer's Orchard is actually kind of weird, in that you could encounter snake worshippers there who are sort of good guys, I think. But you could also encounter the fungi from Ugoth, just cause. The kitchen sink. You gotta do everything. And my favorite is McKiernan's Lighthouse, which is it's basically like if you meet the informant, your possible ally, you meet him on night 1 at the bridge, and he says like, look, we can't talk in town, but tomorrow night let's meet up at the lighthouse, and if I find anything out, we can talk about it there. And it's not, it can become a trap in which like the bad guy summons a star spawn of Cthulhu who brings down the whole lighthouse while you're in it. It's just all the way over the top, like just no subtlety. But I kind of appreciate that. I think it's kind of great. And really, truly, honestly, the covers of all of these booklets are some of the most fantastic art I've ever seen in a role-playing game.
Oh yeah, I'm looking at stuff of it online.
They are the fellow's name. Let me find the page. So it's Rodell D. Sandford Jr. They look like metal engravings from, the late 1800s and early 1900s. They're just extremely detailed, very fine line work, like so much so that if you like hold it at a distance, they look like almost like photographs. Like they just are impossibly detailed and just really beautiful. And I just don't understand why like what happened to this guy? Like how come Call of Cthulhu Mainline didn't hire this guy? They're just fantastic. They're super atmospheric. I mean, the one flaw in them is that they sell us an experience that the adventure doesn't line up with.
Right.
Because like they are so good and like uncampy. Whereas the adventure itself is pretty campy.
Yeah.
But like if that's the worst thing I can say.
Well, I mean, it's like old comic book covers from like the Silver Age, where it's just like, oh my God, nothing like that happens in the book, but that's a great looking cover.
Yeah. And then like they repackage everything as a group adventure, and it works pretty well. And they do this thing where like if you investigate, you still use the solo books in the group play. It's just that the GM's using them and using that as like their guideline. So like it's really kind of nice because you have everything really laid out, not just as like in abstract, like here is your map and here is your key, but like there you have like the flow of events kind of mapped out for you too. So like you don't have to adhere to it, but it's like you can see the potentialities. It's really cool and really interesting. And I can't believe that like a third party publisher, this is really elaborate and complex game design. I think it's absolutely fantastic. And I don't think that anybody really knows about it.
Well, because it's like super out of print. Because while you were mentioning it, I was kind of like Googling a little bit. And, so for instance, like, it's for sale for like $130 to $120, like expensive. And I was like, oh, I wonder what the PDF is like. And apparently I was on the Reddit Hive of Scum and Villainy. I know. But basically someone's like, hey, where can I find this in PDF? And someone's like, the Triad Entertainment stuff doesn't exist in PDF.
That stinks.
I mean, I'm sure there was some place where you probably could have found it.
Well, yeah.
Where all other RPG PDFs exist. But I mean, to be honest, like you think about like a company like this it was a smaller company. This came out like back in what
this is 92.
92, right? So like depending on how long they stuck around, and with people kind of clamoring for this stuff, like it could just be ephemera where it's like, well, this is what's left of it. No one really has the rights. No one really thought to like, wow, we should make a PDF of this. Because I'm sure there's a ton of games out there that like don't have PDFs just because like no one thought to make it because they probably didn't make a ton of money of it.
Right.
When it was like out physically.
This was an early one of their products. And it's just one of those things where it's just, there's so much treasure out there if you look for it. It is a shame that it's so expensive on the collector's market, probably because the folder is pretty fragile, and I can see that the books are pretty easy to lose. The handouts are all single sheets that were in the folder, so if this thing is opened, you have a high likelihood of it being incomplete, which is a bummer. However, I still think that like $130 is too much money for it.
Oh, way too much money for it. Yeah,
I got mine for $70.
That seems like a lot of money still.
That was still a lot of money, but like I had a feeling that this one was something special, and it was paid off. I love it. It's fantastic. If you see one at a reasonable price that you could afford, and you're a Call of Cthulhu fan, I recommend grabbing it.
Well, that sounds kind of like a last thought to me. Do you have anything else you want to add to that, Stu?
Nah.
So we have something fun we're going to try out here at the end of the episode. Stu, you said you reached out to some of our patrons and you got some questions.
I did. I'm going to pick a couple and I'm going to answer them. First one of interest was from Benjamin. Benjamin asked, people online say that Wizards of the Coast is too PC to touch Dark Sun. Why are people who say this so annoying? I'll tell you why, Benjamin. Because...
Oh, boy. That's the first question out the gate. I see.
These people are so annoying because they don't know their history. Wizards of the Coast released Dark Sun for 4th edition in 2010. So,
yeah.
They already did it, and it didn't sell well. That's why there's no 5th edition one.
I mean,
God,
it didn't it did like sell well the first time.
it was a pretty popular one. That's a whole muddy issue because I people think that like it didn't sell like the rule books, but it still sold
Nothing
lots
does.
of copies. Nothing does, right?
Yeah.
It was popular enough to get reissued later in 2nd edition and again in 4th edition. But it was a 4th edition product, so it didn't sell that well. So they weren't going to do it again in 5th. And honestly, you should probably not want Wizards of the Coast to redo your favorite setting because they don't do it that well.
Yeah. Let's like take my favorite sandwich and then remake it without the ingredients that I like. Like
Right. Yeah. Like Subway sandwiches with the fake cheese and the fake bread.
fake tuna. Holy cow.
Yeah, it wasn't even fish, right? All right. Justin asked, low lights from any games or books you've read recently. I actually just finished reading a book called Claimed. Pen name is Frances Stevens. I think the woman's name who actually wrote it was named Gertrude Bennett. It was sold to me as a sailors accidentally summon a god to destroy New Jersey with an ancient artifact. And I was just like, oh, wow, I am so in. This was written in 1920. I'm always down to see the great state of New Jersey suffer at the hands of ancient gods in fiction. Unfortunately, the majority of the book takes place in what I believe is a suburb of Philadelphia, and aside of some squalls in Atlantic City and a mention of Cape May, New Jersey doesn't really play as large a role. So big. It was a fun book otherwise, and I think that it might have influenced Call of Cthulhu, Lovecraft's story, in a big way. But I'm going to write about that later. So, but
to answer your question, I don't read.
Hey, man, it's an honest answer. Oh, Benjamin also asks, are you going to collect the new Pendragon and/or are you going to play the new Pendragon? I mean, have you met me?
It's true. It's very true.
So excited. The best part, and I guess this is how I'm going to announce it. The best part of me going to Gen Con this year is that I'm going to go buy all the books and save on shipping.
This is true.
Direct from Chaosium. So I'm going to have like a linear foot of Chaosium books that I'm saving up to buy at Gen Con and stow in the plane on the way back. I'm sure that won't cost more than shipping.
Well, ultimately, I think the move here is that, you're going for like, what, 3 days?
Yeah, 3 or 4, something like that.
So you get a big suitcase, right?
Yeah.
One flap of the suitcase, fill your clothes, which you're not, and haven't been, and I say this respectfully, known for outfit changes and needing like lavish costumes. Like,
no.
You can probably fit all your stuff for 4 days in one half of the suitcase. The other half of the suitcase is strictly for books.
Right.
And so on the way back, they may be like, oh, you're like a little overweight here with your suitcase. Then you just pay them like $20 and then they put it on the plane.
Sounds good to me.
Or you get like a record tote bag for the ones you want to read on the plane, and that'll take a little bit of the weight off.
Yeah. What else? Do we have any other good ones? Good podcasts. I don't listen to podcasts. Hambo, do you listen to podcasts?
Yes, I do. So a couple things. Why We Roll is a podcast on TTRPG design with Chris Pickett and wife Marshall. Really fun. I was actually on the show recently, and we just talked for like a while about different concepts of like game design and the things that kind of made us, who we are when it comes to deciding games. There is also Weird Games and Weirder People by Diogo Nogueira, which is awesome because like, dude is a sweetheart, just as is, very thoughtful, very quizzical about games, a just unreal game designer. Like, Jojo's got the stuff, but like, he does very long conversations with creators, and we're talking like hour 45. He just did, I think recently, maybe it was in May, 2 hours with Joseph Goodman.
Huh.
So that's the kind of thing that you're looking for, to kind of like really dig into and listen to some absolutely badass creators. You can't go wrong with that. Horror Press podcast is pretty cool too. Real friendly, nice website. The folks who run that are pretty cool. They do a Hard Press podcast. They're talking about like the latest and what's going on in the world of horror. And I think that's it. Oh, and if you want a toy podcast, if you're toy collectors, Adventures in Collecting, my buddy Eric and Dave talking about like toys, the toy scene, what's going on. Like if you are like into the world of like actual toy collecting and HasLab and Maddie Collector, it's gonna be the show for you. Ha! See, I do listen to podcasts.
I don't. I have nothing to offer. I would probably listen to Diojo's show if I could fit podcast into my lifestyle, but I can't because all I do is write.
Yeah, man, working right and work.
Yep. Connor asks, what is Lizard Man's place in this cruel modern world? I think in my personal experience, Lizard Man is extinct. So he has no place, sadly. Hambone, do you have thoughts?
I mean, like, are we talking about like like Lizard Man, or are we just, like, I think I would need the quantification of like what style of a Lizard Man you're talking about. Probably, working at a taco shack down by the beach, living their best life, changes in latitude, changes in attitude.
I see. So you think that the Lizard Man are among us?
I just think maybe just like one specifically, and like, Dave the Gecko is like,
what,
hanging loose.
what made it through? He's just I like this.
Yeah, he's just, he's not getting caught up in any hassle or trouble. He's just like, man,
he's not like the V aliens. He doesn't want to eat any live hamsters. He's just like, I got tacos.
He's like, I got tacos, he's probably got a great carnitas recipe. He like makes a mean pina colada. He's got like a surf shack where he rents out like surfboards. Like in my head canon, Dave Gecko, that's what Dave's up to, living his best life.
See, I immediately interpreted this as like something to be afraid of because I thought immediately of the Sleestack, and they terrified me as a child. And I really hope that the Sleestack are extinct with the dinosaurs and the rest of the Land of the Lost.
Sleestacks were pretty terrifying, huh? When you think back at it, like they're so unnerving. Like when I started coming up with like creature concepts for Point Nemo and Rocket to Russia, I told Kelly Williams, who did the art for the monsters, I was like, basically, this is what I'm looking for. I want it to look like the creature from the Black Lagoon fucked a Sleestack, and this is what the Amphicora should look like. And dude came through, and they're hideous. But
you look at a Sleestack and you don't know what to be worried about. Like is it the hands? Is it the bug eyes? Is it the weird little pointy crest? All of these things.
Oh, the eyes are so dead. The deadest of eyes.
But they're sparkly too. Like it's all bad. And if that's what Lizard Man is, I hope that they're extinct. If Lizard Man is a fun-loving dude and just wants to eat some tacos and is like, it works at a taqueria, maybe surfs a little bit, like I'm into it. And I hope that is his place in the modern world.
Oh, very cool. This was another amazing episode of the Vintage RPG Podcast. Stu, where can people find you on the internet?
They could find me on vintagerpg.com. I should note, interestingly enough, that I believe this week I'm posting more Rolaids books, and one of them on Wednesday should be the source book for Lizard Man.
No shit.
Yeah, it's a terrible source book, so I mean, brace yourself.
Terrible name for an RPG line, but go on.
Oh yeah, I mean, it spells relief. Yeah, so come on down to Vintage RPG, get the big pictures, no algorithms, lots of searchable words about role-playing games. Join the newsletter. I had said that if I get 500 people signed up to the newsletter, that I would do posts. I would commit to posts for 2025. And I got 500 people on the newsletter, which is pretty cool. Thank you for that. I feel like 500 people on my newsletter is about as awesome as 50,000 ghosts in following me on Instagram.
Here, here. You can find me across the internet, John McGuire RPG. I've been posting more. I've been going out more and doing like creative stuff more. And it's summer. So, I've just been chilling and grilling. And that's more or less what I'm looking forward to these days. Yeah, it's about it. You can find me on Instagram. That's kind of where I'm posting mostly. If you like the show, don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe. Your reviews really do help other listeners to find us. If you really like the show, want to become a patron, patreon.com/vintagerepg. We got a behind-the-scenes look at whatever Stu's working on. We got a behind-the-scenes look at what I'm working on. We've got brand new episodes, early release episodes for as little as $1 a month. You get them before everybody else at some point on Friday or Saturday. We've got a killer Discord community that we'd love for you to be a part of. At the $5 tier, you can roll dice with me. I play a different RPG every month, and I welcome you to come along. At the $10 tier, Stu has an ongoing West Marches campaign, which is literally to die for. Patreon.com/vintagerpg. So for Stu Horvath, I'm John Hambone McGuire. May the dice always roll in your favor. Take care.
Thanks for listening. Don't forget to like, review, and subscribe to the podcast. Every review helps other listeners to find us. The Vintage RPG Podcast is a ham-fisted production. Music by Dego West. Art by Schaefer Brown. If you like the podcast, you should also consider becoming a patron at patreon.com.